Recently, I found out about RCTA or ETCA, and if you don't know what is circulating around those acronyms, we will discuss its very particular oddness. Originally, I was planning to discuss Asian beauty standards and how the Asian ball-jointed doll culture seems to mirror these unhealthy expectations on beauty. Characteristics such as pale skin, big eyes, or small and slim noses seem to be prevalent in the Asian BJD industry, but as well as within the entirety of Asian beauty standards, at least current Asian beauty standards. I intended to make a point of the lack of skin tones available in the ball-jointed doll community and doll community as a whole, where this colorism stems from. But there seems to be an even more serious emotional and psychological battle involving Asian beauty standards. As a doll content creator and admirer of Asian beauty trends and Asian fashion, I wanted to check in with myself. I want to open a conversation about this. From a young age, well into my teens, I noticed people around me were definitely influenced by Eurocentric beauty standards. My mother's father came from Spain and he was more fair apparently, so she is more fair according to Filipinos.
Who is the fairest one of all?
In the summer, when the sun comes, I get very, very dark and very, very tanned. I didn't pay any mind to my varying skin tone until I went to the Philippines at 9 years old. There were so many commercials, whitening soaps and creams and lotion, all of this propaganda really promoting the promise of fair skin. My sister, who was 17 at the time, she asked my mother, why are all these weird commercials on television promising fair skin whitening? We never seen anything like that before, and I definitely was a little bit disturbed by it.
New Pond's Whitening Toner, the only one with vitamin B3. It deeply cleans and gives you rosy white skin without the ugly peeling, so you can face the spotlight.
That's it for the world of business. Now here's Mike for sports. Mike. Top NBA rookies put a
New Pond's Whitening Toner deeply cleans and whitens without ugly peel.
So my mom just kind of left it off. Like, she was like, oh yeah, that's just how it is. Like, oh, you know, if you're darker skinned, you work in the rice fields and you work outside, and so, you know, it meant that you're poor. And maybe because she was fair, she kind of left it off. And then she had explained that if you were lighter skin tone, it meant that you had an education and you went to college indoors or you worked indoors, like as a nurse.
Mike.
She didn't really seem to be like disturbed by it. Obviously, she grew up with it. Now, this is from my experience in the Philippines at 9 years old. I can't speak on behalf of all of the Southeast Asian countries that they all have this same divide and perception with skin tone and economic status. But becoming white is an investment and makes you win at life.
จะอยู่ได้นานๆไม่ใช่เรื่องง่ายแล้วถ้าคริสหยุดดูแลตัวเองเมื่อรับทุกอย่างที่ทุ่มเทมาความขาวที่ลงทุนไว้ก็หมดไปเด็กใหม่ที่เข้ามาแทนที่อาจทำให้เรากลายเป็นดาวดับแค่ขาวก็ชนะสโนว์กลูต้าเข้มข้นที่สุด
As we were traveling in the Philippines, we also had my sister's Caucasian boyfriend with us at the time, a white boy with blue eyes and blonde hair, and he was getting so much attention everywhere we went. This was back in 1999, but my extended family members in the Philippines, as well as the Filipino community around my mother, would comment on my skin tone, saying that I was very fair and seemed to be impressed. I think on a subconscious level, it may have affected my psychology over time. I really do want to confront and face that. At 14 years old, a friend who is also Southeast Asian pointed out the double fold in my eyelid and told me that I was lucky. I just didn't really understand at the time. I later found out about eyelid tape for monolid eyes, but you know, they would just call it a single eyelid fold. And some of my girlfriends at the time, they were young, 18, were getting eyelid surgery, and a lot of Asian beauty standards were like really taking place in my reality. I'm all for plastic surgery for people to feel confident in their own personal standards of beauty, their own personal relationship with their image. But this is where it gets really bizarre. And we're talking strange. We're talking stranger than this guy who is born British to be claiming to be South Korean. Even more peculiar than this gentleman who went from this to this. Both of these individuals underwent surgical procedures, but did they also go through the now trending assumed psychological practices free of charge on social media around
subliminals?
The societal appetite amongst Filipinos for a lighter skin tone was incepting my mind when I was 9 years old and onwards affecting me back in the 90s, early 2000s, and fast forward to today. This is 25 whole years later. 25 years later. I can say that in the ever-expanding social media network and technology, there is a wave of people who believe they can actually change the race that they were born with to another race. They don't need plastic surgery. RCTA, which means race change to another, has now 33,000 hits on TikTok. And a lot of these posts are satire, and some would feel that it is pretty ridiculous and would want to mock others who believe that they could change their race from the one that they are born with. But a lot of these posts are community and support seeking, representing a person who is on a self-perceived transformational journey to change their race. And now these posts look something along the lines of this. So this one's a little different from the ones I've seen. Usually they're about a personal journey. This one's more educational and supportive, and it has 811 likes. Now, sometimes they also show their dead race, which is the race they're transitioning from, and their face claim, which is the face that they hope to change into after listening to these subliminal messages. The hashtag RTCA is valid, has 15,000 hits alone. So the opposing side that believes that this is a larger issue about racism, fetishization, and that face claiming is illegal. And it seems that those who are in support could perhaps be from a younger age category, persons who live with their parents, who have been learning and embracing Asian culture since they were 7. But what's even more intriguing and just simply outrageous is that there is content being consumed in the hundreds of thousand views, which claim to be subliminal programming to assist you in your transracial journey. If ethics couldn't continue to be challenged on the internet, this was my first look at subliminals. I didn't even know about these videos, but there seems to be a diverse amount of subliminal videos that you can listen to on the web for various different reasons. And if you don't know what subliminals are, they seem to be some sort of audio visual that you can listen to or watch passively or just have in the background in your sleep or while you're doing work, and it can change something in your reality or change your race. Back to the belief that you can change your race or your ethnicity with subliminal messaging. It seems that a majority of the goals in this community are around changing your eye shape and your skin tone, equating to becoming Japanese or Korean. I found this post of someone accusing the RTCA community of using Chinese girls as their face claim to become South Korean and being upset with this. And I found all of this whole thing to be very interesting because I particularly have an interest in the doll culture, mainly from South Korea, Japan, and China. And I found that there were issues within the diversity of dolls from China, South Korea, and Japan. But the RTCA community now has me, thinking and feeling a little concerned for those within it. Is this whole obsession with being pale linked with this fetish that people have for Eurocentric beauty standards, Light colored eyes and thin dainty noses also dominate the aesthetic of Asian dolls. We have people now actively journaling their attempts to change their race, their eye shape, their skin tone, and they do believe that they see changes from these subliminals. And this is problematic on so many levels, all of these little journals on the internet. But what about the doll community? Is there like an overlap here with this issue? Maybe it's a little bit more subtle. Maybe we haven't really noticed it. Maybe we're noticing it, but we're not doing much about it. We can dive deep into the history of skin tones becoming available amongst Barbie dolls throughout the years. And I can't say that the Asian doll community has gone through the same heights to appeal to the masses. It is probably because these Asian BJD companies are smaller, they're not Mattel, they're catering to a smaller niche or just really to their own countries or the Asian collectible doll niche. Maybe there's just always been this beauty standard to adhere to. For the most part, ball-jointed dolls, Pulip, Leica, Blythe, Volks, and doll companies within Korea, Japan, China truly contain a dominance of paler skin tones with very few to no available darker or more tanned options. One brand that has really set themselves aside with skin tone options is Smart Doll, posting in celebration of Black History Month. But even there, we don't see too many darker Asian skin tones, maybe tea as a skin tone, but even this skin tone to me is quite fair. Having said that, something has to be said about how they have recently released their pear-shaped doll in various skin tones as well. And because we have seen such a lack in the doll community and a pushback on that with the amount of body types available for doll, I do have to say kudos to Danny Chu and his team. And Danny Chu is like a whole other topic, I think, in the doll community, but I do respect Smart Doll for that. There are so many skin tones that vary amongst Southeast Asians, and I just feel like there isn't a strong representation of that in the Asian doll industry as well as Asian media. So it's very clear to me that young people are being affected by this RCTA phenomenon, but you really just can't change your race. It's just not scientifically possible. In the time that you spend trying to do the impossible, you could be learning about that culture, respecting that culture by reading on its history instead of spending time brainwashing yourself. You could be honoring your own culture and connecting with the roots of your own culture and celebrating the beauty from where you're really from. If popular Korean TV shows and K-pop groups and anime and Chinese social media featured more tanned Asian persons, could we somehow reverse what's going on here and steer these people who sincerely believe that they can change their race in another direction? What's unsettling to me is that those who are claiming to be active, who hope to change themselves into becoming South Korean or Japanese, are blanketing the identity of their desired race to be pale-skinned with a specific eye shape. So this community is attributing Southeast Asians to look a certain way, and that's wrong. All Asians and humans in general are just so beautifully diverse. Why is the media, it is a bigger question that we've been asking for years now, is why is the media promoting such limiting beauty standards? What I'm wondering is, do most young people that are interested in Asian media or anime or K-drama and K-pop, do they have a desire to look like an Asian doll? You can roll back time and pinpoint some historical references to back this prejudice and racism and colorism, but the fact of the matter is people today, and potentially most of them being youth, are going through a personal conflict with their identity and hoping to brainwash themselves as a means of a permanent solution. Becoming Asian right now, I would say, is heavily based on Chinese social media, Korean shows, Korean TV, pop groups, and Korean dramas do take pretty large residence for representing Asian film and video on streaming platforms. And there does seem to be a very clear image that Korean Hollywood seems to uphold. A lot of Douyin social media posts seem to trickle into TikTok nowadays. And they seem to mostly portray pale, skinny, big-eyed females and males. So back in the 90s, 2000s, society didn't really have like internet influencers. There's very, very few popular YouTubers, not even that much anime being featured on TV. Some tanned Asian celebrities like Levi Tran and Tila Tequila, and darker Japanese girls in Gyaru magazines that my host siblings that had stayed with our family for the summertime would give me. I would get these Japanese magazines for teenage girls, and they had the Gyaru girls in them, and they were tanned. And so, you know, there were a couple summers there that I wanted to look like that, and I wanted to be really tanned, and I wanted to look like a import tuner model. But that was then. If I was growing up now, would I be listening to subliminals with the hopes of becoming more pale and turning my double folded eyelids into a monolid? I'm just not too sure. Like, I've always suffered from weak self-image issues, and so I've had to really look within and try to find a balance and accountability with my own views on colorism and how it affects society and how it affects myself psychologically. We do have trends around being like a pale goth girl and this whole coquette movement, and now anime cosplay, and there's a certain way to do your makeup for Gyaru makeup, for Douyin makeup, Korean, Japanese makeup. Someone who's gone through plastic surgery myself, I do understand the reasons behind surgical procedures for a specific aesthetic. I think it becomes an issue when one starts to gain a degree of mental illness because of their obsession with self-image, and this mental illness can equate to multiple plastic surgeries and kind of a constant dissonance in the mind with how one would appear. Because of the lack of diversity presented and available in popular Asian media, people are being bullied and subject to belief systems around scientifically impossible things like changing your race, and this is creating deeper psychological self-image issues from listening to these subliminals. So yes, let's try the e-girl makeup and the dollette makeup and the anime style makeup, but let's not brainwash ourselves to look like Lisa from Blackpink. If you want to get surgery, if you want to do your makeup in a certain style, no one should be judging you. But reinforcing a belief in your mind that you have to change your actual race in order to be happy, I didn't think that this was something that people would actually commune over on the internet. And it was shocking to me at first, but it's also not so shocking. I think there could be more of a solution-based response to this, or a more open and compassionate conversation around this. So many of these posts are saying, please don't judge me, please don't hate me, don't hate on me, which leads me to visit myself as a parent and to discuss parents bonding with their children more intimately in the ways of celebrating their culture, where they come from, their ethnicity, their skin tone, just checking in with them on their exposure to these topics on the internet. If you're someone who suffers from being bullied due to your skin tone or race, you should talk to someone that you trust about it. And if you don't have anyone that you trust about it, I've included some links in the description below on seeking more support on the internet outside of the RCTA community. Listening to these subliminal videos, it is not a long-lasting or permanent solution. It is not a solution. But being currently lighter skinned, I hope that I did not offend anyone with this video. I mainly wanted to discuss my personal findings, confront my own self, and express my concerns for young persons in this RCTA community, to look at my own interests in Asian fashion dolls, if I can expand there based on my own judgments or my own experiences growing up. If you are a doll collector, do you consider inclusion in your doll collection, or have you not really thought of it? And is there potentially a background story or reason for that? Again, not discriminating or judging anyone. I put in the description below a list of companies I found through forums that offer ball jointed dolls with darker skin tones. If you are of Southeast Asian descent, where do you stand in all of this? I do try to reply to every single comment and just connect with the community in my comment section. Remember to like this video so that YouTube is aware of what you like, and the next time you open this app, YouTube will show you exactly what you want to see. Enjoy playing with your dolls this week or whatever shenanigans you may be up to, and I'll catch up with you in the next video.
You have to look at how you're treating Japan and ask yourself if I'm the one fetishizing Japan or if you're the one fetishizing Japan.